Well, welcome to a new UVA Throws episode. Today with us, we have Steve Manz. He's also known as Tevo Manzic in some countries. He was an incredible college athlete and professional. He traveled all around the world competing, and now he's a collegiate coach. He's going to talk to us about being an athlete at all levels, being a coach, and what is he looking for when it comes to recruiting. So without further ado, one and only Steve the Stevo Manzic.
Steve Manz. We got Steve Manz here with us. Steve, thank you so much for your time. How's everything over there?
Everything's great, man. Thanks for having me. I'm truly honored watching a few of the other podcasts and the great coaches that you've been interviewing and talking to. It's really cool. I think you're doing a really cool thing, but we got crazy times.
Yeah.
I got crazy times with a 3-year-old and a 5-week-old right now. So
yeah, how's that? Being a dad.
Good.
Second time.
It's good. It's a lot of work, but this COVID break has kind of turned into a paternal leave almost. So it's nice to be here helping my wife Beth. I can't imagine how tough it would be if I was traveling on the road every weekend like we would be right now.
Usually, right? Yeah.
No.
So how is that now for you guys? How do you recruit? Obviously, the kids are not competing. There's no marks for juniors, right?
Right.
You're already kind of know class of 2020, but 2021 is usually what we go and look at now. How do you recruit, or what's your suggestion for juniors who haven't had a season?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think the best thing they can do is get some video of them throwing and training, maybe even marking some throws. I mean, otherwise, with a lot of these athletes that are more in the walk-on level, you almost have to wait till the indoor season and see how they've progressed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to judge a high school athlete off of sophomore marks.
Yeah.
I threw 40-foot 10 and 112 as a sophomore. Like, no one's gonna look at me a shot, you know.
Yeah.
It's just and there's so much improvement in those last couple of years of high school, just like your last couple of years of college. So it's really tough. I think the best thing you can do is stay in touch with the coaches and schools that you're looking at, and give them as much video evidence of your improvement.
Yeah. What is that you're looking for in terms of kids coming in for 2020 class? Let's say, are you looking for a certain number of people, or are you looking for a certain distance? How do you going to plan for 2021 and 2022, right, for the future recruits?
Yeah. So I'm finishing up my 4th year at Miami, and my first year was awesome. I came in and I had this group that was just handed to me, all these seniors. And we had, I want to say 3 All-American women that year.
Yeah.
Our women shot group, I think, was first indoors with that group scoring that USDF CCCA does. And I think we're second or third outdoors to Justin St. Clair's group, as always. He's always on all of those lists, blowing them up with his depth and talent. But they all graduated, minus a javelin thrower who missed out on her 5th year this year, and we're very hopeful she's coming back for a 6th year. But it's a really good group at this point. I grinded really hard those first 2 or 3 years trying to build it, and at this point I have about 17 throwers. I'm only bringing in 1 or 2 throwers this year. Okay. And really in the next couple of years, because they're so young, I'm in a position where it's got to be the right kind of athlete to add to the group, because I like a big group, but I think 20 is on the high end. It's just it's hard to
be
split them up and give them all the attention that they deserve when you have that big of a group. But the great thing is it creates like a training center type of atmosphere, and the cream rises to the top. The athletes push each other, and that's a great thing. So right now I'm just it's kind of easy this year. It's got to be the right athlete. Next year, same thing. I've got outside of my sixth-year javelin girl who went 53 meters. I've got a lot of sophomores and juniors that are going to come back acting like freshmen and sophomores. Well, not acting. They're going to come back as freshmen, sophomores.
Exactly. Yeah. Their situation will be as such. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of I've been anticipating this coming year in 2021 for a couple of years now. I've been saying, like, all right, hang in there. We've got a lot of young talent. Like, they're going to be juniors and seniors someday, and when that situation comes, we're gonna light it up. So I am really excited for next year, and I've got some athletes that are busting their butts over this break, and not by my command. I mean, that's not even allowed. But I know the type of group I have, and it's really the best group I've had. And I've had some great groups, but this one, in size and the amount of athletes that go home over Christmas break or go home over the summer, and like, they're still training a lot. They're getting in the weight room 3-4 days a week, and they're getting out there throwing 3 to 5 days a week, and maintaining and even improving on the last year rather than losing it all and having to build that back up in the fall when you see them again.
I like that you're looking big picture, right? So for you, what it seems like, it's not, okay, I'm going to get this athlete freshman year, they have to contribute, they have to win conference. What you're looking at mostly is how you're going to develop this athlete, right? And for your example, in high school, when you look at Steve Manz in high school, a lot of big coaches missed out on you, because they didn't see the talent that is there. So this is what you're good at now. That's why you had a couple of very good groups, and I'm excited to see what you're going to get. So when the athlete is reaching out to you, if they're not, I don't know, let's say for a woman, she didn't throw 40 feet, would that be something to deter you from recruiting that person, or?
I mean, 40 feet and 130 are the kind of the low end benchmark of the walk-ons for me right now. I almost need to see that or know that there's big potential. If an athlete has a lot of size, or if they're working with a private coach that I'm familiar with and can talk to, and they're saying, oh, this one's going to light it up. They're a diamond in the rough. And, I've been really lucky in my coaching years finding those type of athletes. My MO the last 10 years is really just getting developmental kids. And that was 6 years at Eastern Michigan, also in the MAC conference, only coaching men. And I don't think I ever, outside of the decathlete I was coaching, I don't think I ever had more than a full or even a full ride invested in the men's throws.
Wow.
And it's kind of the same situation in Miami. I'm working with a lot of developmental guys. The women's side has been a new challenge to get better and better talent when there's more money available. When you have 18 scholarships versus 12-6 or a not fully funded men's program, might have 8 or 9. So that's been a new challenge, but I've got a great group of girls as well. My guys are really developing, and I really appreciate the walk-on. I mean, I was a walk-on in college, and developed, and it's really fun developing someone who didn't get any recruiting love out of high school, and all of a sudden they're on the national scene. Now that's a one every 3 or 4 years type of kid. But man, it's fun when you get a kid like that that's really passionate and is willing to work. As Judd Logan would say, work when no one's watching. Or champions are made when no one's watching. So those are the type of kids I've really targeted and tried to find. And it's in the recruiting process, it's hard to find out if a kid's work ethic. Everyone says that they work hard.
Right? But are they, right?
Yeah, and every parent or coach that you talk to thinks that their child is the next phenom or Olympian, and it's tough. And you might have a high school guy who throws 55 feet and 170 who thinks, man, I'm going to get a full ride somewhere, and that's just not the case. I mean, and it depends on what kind of school you're looking at. I think for a lot of these recruits, I mean, the schools that are going to have bigger offers than the other ones, that's not a place you want to be. they're either desperate to get in athletes because they don't have a program. Their team's not balanced, so they have the money to throw it at people. I mean, one of the big things in my last 10 years is we're trying to win conference championships, and you need team depth. You can't have a ton of money invested all over the place. And what's nice with us is you have a walk-on sport conference meet or go big and get to the national meet, something like that. Like these kids are getting rewarded with scholarship the following year. So it's nice when they can always earn it.
Yes.
As opposed, I've heard lots of horror stories of coaches bringing in kids on 70% or full rides, and it's stagnant, or they don't improve because they were developed in high school.
Yeah.
I've always loved the developmental approach.
And that's so. In your career, you can see that as well. You were such an enthusiast of throwing. You love throwing so much. I remember you throwing in Europe. This is how I first met you back in 2008, 2009, 2010. I remember you coming to Europe and compete, and you were professional that right after, kind of professional. You were coaching, and then you would take a summer to recruit and throw. And man, you were going for distance for those things. You were willing to live in these small apartments in Europe. Just scrape a couple $100 to pay rent, and you were learning Croatian. You were speaking Croatian well enough to get around because you wanted to train in Europe and compete in Europe. And I remember that meet. Talk about love for throwing, guys. I remember this meet in Slovenia when you threw over 20 meters. You won the meet, and there were some guys there that were 6'8", 400 pounds, and you see Steve, not 6'8" and not 400 pounds, beating them all, and you're like, "I dare go." Yeah. Really, I mean, that's some coaches. It's nice to hear when coaches say like, "Oh yeah, we're looking for, we love this sport. I'm doing this for love," but you live it. Like you live this sport since I'm sure high school. From what I know you from professional, you can't fake that. Like you cannot fake what you had in Europe for those couple months. You would come and we're willing to get on a tram, like you said, for an hour to go to the stadium and back and live in this foreign country. That was incredible. Yeah. Were you like that in high school, or how did you fall in love with track and field?
I loved sports growing up. It was sports and animals. So I was outside all the time. My first love was baseball. And I moved to a new high school. I switched schools right before 9th grade, and played baseball that freshman year on the freshman team. And there was just a lot of politics in team sports, and definitely at this high school. I don't think I hit puberty yet. I was chubby. Well, still chubby, but more. I was chubbier and just soft. But I played baseball that year. They only gave me 8 at bats, and I went 6 for 7 with a walk. So I batted 800. And I wasn't great at defense. I'll admit that. But the next year during tryouts, I got cut from the baseball team. And I still played Little League baseball that year. I had a great year. The varsity baseball coach actually kind of wanted me back. He wasn't the one that officially cut me, but he wanted me back, and he was the running backs coach for football. So my junior year, after I developed a little bit, and I got some speed as well, he had me come out to be a fullback. And I think it was his way of trying to get me back into baseball. But I went to track my sophomore year. I glided 40'9", and I South Africaned 112 out of the ring with this awful, just the worst haircut ever. But my coaches, we had some great throws coaches. Our head coach, he had a discus athlete in the final. The state final 20 years in a row, something like that. While I was there, my 3 years throwing, we had another, so that guy's name was Doug Griezik. We had another guy, Tim Hansen, who had just graduated from Central Michigan. He was a discus javelin guy, and came in with a lot of passion. to coach me, and Coach Griezek kind of handed over the reins for the throws group, which we had a huge one. I think we had 300 of our 1,000 students in high school. I think 300 were on the track team, and we had about 80 to 90 throwers.
Oh my God!
So it was crazy. It was crazy.
Like a Soviet Union selection.
yeah. We had a sidewalk that went out to the track field, and there were probably 30 painted rings. So people were throwing maybe 10 feet away from each other, all the same direction. But if anyone loses one,
oh my God.
And just buckets and buckets of rubber discs. But my sophomore year, at 40 feet and 112, these coaches made me feel like I had a lot of potential to do something great, and they made me feel great about it. It was a completely different sport, individual versus team. Like, your mark is all that matters for the most part. It doesn't matter if you're favorited or whatever. But my junior year, I was still gliding in the shot and hadn't figured it out. I thought of myself as a discus thrower. I threw 47.2 from the glide, and 156.10 in the discus, which was 4th at the state meet. And I did it at.
Okay.
So even more passionate then. I had only treated track and field like a 3-month out of the year kind of sport. I was also playing football and doing indoor soccer and outdoor soccer. And between my junior and senior year, I wanted to be really good thrower. I wanted to throw in college. That senior year, my throws coach, who was the PE coach or PE teacher, set me up as his student assistant for one of the hours of school. Okay. So during the day, I think it was right after lunchtime, around, I think it was like 12:30 to 1:30, I had this period where I'm the teacher's aide. And I didn't do a thing to help that class. I was learning, and I was throwing an indoor shot into the brick wall over in the corner every day. And if not, I was going outside to throw disc in the snow.
More,
and,
yeah.
I think that spring we found about 20 rubber discs that had gotten lost in the snow, and just ended up figuring it out. I think I threw 50 feet indoors in the shot, maybe 51.
As a senior, this is the senior year now.
Senior year, yep.
Wow, and you were not very good.
No.
In high school, I mean, you were all 3-time All-American. We're talking about 3-time All-American in NCAA.
Yep.
So, okay.
And I was still a discus thrower. I threw 56 feet in the shot. Kind of choked at the state meet. I think I was 7th, and I went in ranked 1st or 2nd. And then in the discus, I think I came in ranked like 6th or 7th, and I won it with the state meet record throw for Class B, which got retired. They went from classes to divisions, so no one can ever break my 170-foot throw.
Record holder forever.
Yeah, but I mean, I was on top of the world. I threw 176 at the state meet. I was like, man, I'm hot shit. I'm not getting recruited that much. I think I didn't do any over.
No, that's way better than 50 feet in the shot.
Yeah. Now I think I was like 164 in the season. Went 169 at regionals, 176 at the state meet. So it all kind of happened late. And if people were looking at junior marks, like it was nothing special.
So
So I got 2 lunches out of the recruiting deal. I went to Michigan State, which I basically recruited myself there. My coach emailed their coach and was like, this guy wants to go to Michigan State.
Yes.
And then Mike Turk, who's at Illinois now, was at Western Michigan right before the program got cut there. And I was looking at Western as well. And I was a really good student in high school. So I had a lot of academic scholarships. And Michigan State was just as expensive as Western Michigan. Central Michigan actually came in with an athletic offer at the state meet right after I threw. So it kind of threw me for a loop. And it made me feel wanted, but they didn't really have they didn't have a men's coach really. They had a women's coach that sometimes helped with the men. So I really liked the idea of Michigan State and decided to walk on there. I had a good coach. Coach Wabansi was awesome, very laid back, made it fun. And for me at the time, I just wanted it to be fun. Hit my first snag September 13th. I was doing hurdle mobility, doing some dynamic step overs sideways, and stepped on my foot as I was lifting it up, and broke my fifth metatarsal, basically the side of your foot, where there's not a lot of blood flow. And they thought it was a sprained ankle for a couple weeks, and then took a couple weeks to get surgery. They botched the first surgery. A couple weeks after that, I had a surgery. So I was I was non-weight bearing through most of the fall. Came back. Yes, freshman year. Yep. So we decided to redshirt. I had a walking cast, and it was my left foot, my block leg. And in January, I started doing stands, and I had gained about, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds of freshman cafeteria food.
Freshman 15 plus times two.
Yeah, right? I came out of high school at 255, and I think my freshman year I was about 285. And I hadn't been lifting. Like I was kind of away from the team until January. But then there was about a 3-4 week period where I had that walking cast on, and I was taking 60 stands a day in the shot. Still didn't help me make my stand respectable ever.
Ever, yeah.
But
that was a 13.
Yeah, and I hit a growth spurt too. A late one. I was 18, and just I hit a growth spurt and found a little more athleticism and speed at that big size. Yeah. And that year, I made the junior national meet. I think I threw 53, 54 to get in. At the meet, it was Jeff Chacoyan, Danny Ames. I think Ruben Williams was there. I think Newell was there before his finals. He still had another juniors after that. It was a great time. Jeff Chacoyan won the shot, gliding at 59 feet as a high schooler.
Was he a glider? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. He switched to spin right when he got to college at Kentucky, and that December through 20 meters 12, I think. Spinning, holding it like a glider, and was just crazy. And Danny Ames was a freak from UCLA. I think he was in the mid 20s in the shot, and he threw over 60 in the disc. He might have even thrown hammer too. He was working with Venegas, and just a phenomenal athlete. But I ended up third there. I PR'd. I might have PR'd later that summer. But I threw 55.3, 1686, I believe, and had a great summer. Learning how to get better, but was definitely not a full year of training. And I was chunky. There was a magazine called Long and Strong Throwers Journal. Pretty big back then when the ring discussion board was still going. And they mentioned me. I think my picture is in there, and they mentioned me as they said Danny Ames was lithe, and that they said compared to the burly Steve Manz. And I was like, okay, I'm burly, great. So redshirted that year, but got to do the junior national thing, which was cool. And then and was third, so I didn't make the team. Jeff and Danny did, but I got to do a few meets in Canada, which is where I threw 1686. And got the gear, which was awesome. Nice. I mean, that gear still sits in my storage bins today, so I can look back on a Sunday. And came back my sophomore year, healthy, and indoor season. I think I was throwing around 58 pretty consistently, high 17s. And then back then they had these last chance meets, and there was one at Eastern Michigan a week before the national meet, and it's my redshirt freshman year. And I hit one of those throws that just like gives you chills at release. Like my whole body just total chills. I'm screaming. I mean, I love being intense in the ring. And on that note, like I always knew before the throw, like it was a little bit of how that shot felt in my neck, if it felt good. But I knew like if I was going to yell really loudly, people were going to look over. So it better be good. And it was something that just made that throw happen and created some great positions when my intensity turned up. And that's one of those things with that meet in Ljubljana in Slovenia. I think it was there, maybe Maribor. I don't remember.
One of the two. Maybe Maribor.
Yeah, before the throw, I mean, I'm in Slovenia. Everyone knows Croatian. It's pretty much the same as Slovenian, almost. And I know, like, if I yell something in Croatian, people are see it. They're gonna look. So before that throw, I know I'm yelling "Ide," and it just made it huge. It was really fun. But anyways,
so I remember us. I mean, the whole stand. We just turned on. Like, what's going on? Like, where's he from? Like, people like, where's he from? That's not like that's America. Like,
yeah,
it was awesome. It was. I was so wired up when you did that. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, that was a great moment. So at that last chance meet, my throw was 1876. Pushed me from like 30th in the nation to 11th. But God, it wouldn't be 11 anywhere near 11th these days. It'd probably be about 30. 30. Put me in 11th. Made the national meet, the indoor national meet. Fell on my first throw. Fell in the ring. Kind of embarrassing. But ended up throwing 1820. It was decent. One of my first All-Americans, fake, still, in my mind. I was never top 8. My best finish in the NCAAs was 9th. But back then, if you had foreigners ahead of you, they would still count the top 8 Americans. So I would have, in these days standards, I think I would have been like a 4-time, what do they call it?
Second team All-American?
Yes, second team All-American. So it was a great experience. Outdoors, I was okay. I think I threw 1820 again. I don't know if I made nationals outdoors or not. I was really good with the indoor implement, liked the bigger shot. I held it way back, almost on the back of my head. Still got the back of my head deformed to this day from pushing a ball into it at the time. And then following year, broke my other ankle. I did it at like 2 a.m. I was wrestling the guy. Never a good time to be doing that stuff. And I dislocated my ankle. It was about 90 degrees to the right when I looked at it. My right ankle. Broke my fibula and tore there's an interosseous membrane between your tib and fib. And that was where a lot of stability is. So I threw that whole year with an ankle brace. I think I threw 57, maybe 58-1, something like that. Just a tough year. Next year, finally got back to where I was. I think I threw 1912. And then my senior year, my 5th year, is when I really just started to figure it out. I started training harder. My practices were just super intense. And I never had a throws program that was kind of the European model with a lot of volume, a lot of sessions. I was typically, there were weeks in college where I was throwing twice a week. Most weeks,
wow.
Yeah, most weeks I was throwing 3. After college, 4 more often. So I think I missed a little in terms of volume, but it really allowed me to be super intense. So every training session I had was 100%. I'm screaming at every full throw, working on a few things in the beginning, but but really like learning that what was 100% in my junior year was 80%, and just learning this whole new level of intensity and acceleration and speed. And I started clicking, and I think I threw 1980 at the University of Michigan. The week before, I threw 1959, I think, at Jesse Owens at Ohio State. Then got to the conference meet and got third, like I usually did. We had Dan Taylor throwing 21 meters, and we had Ned Jed, who was just consistent 1980 to 20 meters back every time. So I could never best them at the conference meet, but it was a great time. And then graduated. Got my degree in zoology. I wanted to work with reptiles and amphibians before
animals,
before I really got into track, and just the life of a track and field athlete and coach is something that really drew me in. And I liked the season and traveling to hotels and training and just getting better and better and better. So after that, I ran into Ty Saban, who coached at the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista for I think 4 or 5 years. He was coaching the pole vault and some of the throws. He was an 8-meter javelin thrower, but just very talented. And he got a head coaching job down at McNeese State in Louisiana. And it was just a unique situation. I had to go. I got my foot into the coaching door. He let me coach the shot disc hammer. He still coached the jab, and he coached the sprints hurdles because we had a 19-foot 580 vaulter that was coaching the vault in training as well. And man, I really learned how to train back then. I realized the training I was doing in college was pretty light, and just learned how to be a all-around athlete. I almost was training more like a javelin thrower for a couple of years there. I was 288 when I got down there. That first summer I was running 6 days a week, probably putting in, I had one long run. So I was probably putting in 15 miles a week.
Wow. So you're working on speed or more speed, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I was just I was working the endurance side of things, but I was just getting myself in better fitness, a better level of fitness. And I think it's something that paid off big time back then for me. I got down to like 255 and just pushed it back up lifting weights. We had a hurricane come in, and we were evacuated for 5 weeks, and I slept on the floor. But I had nothing else to do but train. And it's kind of a similar situation to what's going on right now for a lot of people. Like, you got a lot of time on your hands. You can't go out. Like,
do body work, right?
You got time to train.
Be safe, but do something, right?
Yeah, and I had a great little training group. There was a couple vaulters and me, and Ty. We were staying on Ty's brother's floor, and it was just a great developmental time. And that year, it was 2006. That was my best year. I threw 2029 indoors. Probably the best meet of my life was that Indoor USA Championships. I was 5th with 2029, and I was a centimeter behind Adam Nelson. And I was like, okay, like now we're doing something. Wow. And that was the meet that Andras and John saw me at. And Andras Hocklitz and John Newell. And Andras was trying to get into the agent thing. He was still throwing and training, but I was kind of like his pet project. And he looked over me for 4 years and really helped me out to get into that European scene. And that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to see the world at the time. I wasn't a big deal in the U.S. I think my highest ranking was like 11th in 2006, and at the same time I was 23rd or 24th in the world. So in the U.S., like, it didn't really matter, and track and field isn't that big, so you don't have a lot of meets that pay. I think I only got paid other than U.S. championships. I got paid once at Kansas relays, and that was it. But in Europe, if you throw 20 meters, which I think I did twice. I might have done it in Ireland. But in my good years, I was sitting 1950 to 20. And it was enough to make a little money. I'd come home from 2 or 3 months of summer with, I don't know, 3,000 to 5,000 euro in my pocket, and go back to coaching. So I would coach during the school years, and in the summer I would go and see the world. I met some great people, had some great relationships. I think the first time I met you, we were in Sombate. I think I met you in Bielorussia, but my first year
training camp,
yeah, may it rest in peace. That sucks.
Yeah, it was a good place. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sad I can never really go back there. But we lived in Sombate in an apartment, and it was Andras, John Newell, and Ivana Berklicic.
Wow.
So it was just it was a great situation. We had this little gecko pub at the bottom of the building, and John and I would go eat there. Then we'd go train. And I heard you guys talking about the Sombate experience, like going there.
I remember that restaurant too. That's awesome. It's like a domestic food, right? Like a Hungarian cuisine.
Yeah. And no one speaks English. A few people speak German. And Hungarian's like impossible to learn.
Alien language.
Hungarian, Finnish, and Chinese, Japanese, like those are so hard. I always thought Croatian was awesome because once you learn the alphabet, you could at least pronounce things. Like there were no tricks like English where you're slipping up saying something stupid. I still haven't gotten down all the Croatian endings, but you guys
you were speaking real well. You were speaking well enough to that you were fine. You can go get your food. You can pay your bills. You were able to make a small conversation. You were fine. Like you would know when somebody talking about your back, right? You would hear that.
Well, the hard part that I don't think you Europeans have is I only learned from a book, so I could say anything I want. But if someone starts talking, like I blank. I don't know what you're saying. And then towards the end, like I could start responding quick enough where it looked like I knew what I was doing. But you guys get so much American culture thrown at you with music and in all of our movies and media that you're hearing English all the time, and I wasn't hearing Croatian a lot. But I could always say anything I wanted, and I still can. I'll forget a lot, but I still get that plane.
You need a month or two, you'll be fine. Well, that is very true. All our movies, all the music is in English, and you get accustomed to it very early, right, from your childhood. And then when it comes time to learn it in school, which is age of 9 or 7, right now it's even in kindergarten. So you start at 5 years old. It's not the same. But when you try to learn a different language at 20, 21, that's a different ballgame. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, it helps to get immersed in the language, and living in Croatia helped a lot. I spent the first couple of years between Hungary and Croatia. We like to go to Bielorussia to train, which was awesome. My last year, which wasn't a great year for me, I had an apartment for a couple months, and I lived with these 4 Serbian gypsies. They're all brothers between 50 and 60 years old. No one spoke English. And it was kind of neat. I had my own room, and we shared a
band, right? Were they a band?
Yeah. They kept trying to invite me to these little like parties, and I heard all these stories from my Croatian friends about these gypsy parties. And I'm like, man, I want to, but I'm not gonna. So I never really experienced that, but I mean, they taught me how to play cards. I don't remember the games. And they helped my Croatian a lot, but they got a lot of blank stares from me too. Like, I don't know what you're saying. But God, those were great times. And just the great relationship.
I remember when you were there, you were telling me, and no wonder your Croatian was then getting much better at Bielorussia, right? Like, oh,
Yep.
Stevo, because you picked your name. Croatian name was Stevo Manzic, right? That was your Croatian name, and Stevo, your Croatian is very good. It's like, well, yeah, I'm living with these gypsies, and they don't speak English, so I had to speak with them. I go to training, Nedjad and Edis. We go to a coffee. We're hanging out before practice for an hour. They're speaking, between themselves. They're speaking English, but then you were picking up so well. You were speaking Croatian. You were fine. You were like a, let's say, preschool kid, maybe 4 years old. A 4-year-old language level. That's where you were, which is still a lot.
Oh,
you get out of trouble, you can get in trouble, and you get out of trouble.
Yeah. And there were a couple times in my 4 years there where I'd run into there'd be a 4 or 5-year-old Croatian kid near me, and I would love to listen to them talk because I got it all.
Yes,
like
that's
I know
what
you're saying.
Yeah.
But then we'd go out and with the younger throwers, and they'd be having conversations, and I would pick up about 30-40%.
They speak fast.
Yeah, I knew what they were talking about most of the time. I could usually tell if someone was talking shit about me. But it was a great time, and the relationships that we built, and just places I got to see. It was awesome. I mean, there's so many great Croatian people, and my friends. Like I miss those days in Croatia, hanging out with Nedjad and Edis and you and Jan, my former thrower, who helped me with that apartment as well. Ivana, I hope I'm not missing any Croatians. And my other former thrower, Katerina. Just so many great people, and the hospitality, looking out for me while I was there. It really made for a great experience. And I never made an Olympic team. I never did anything bigger than 5th at that one U.S. Championships. No better than 9th at NCs. But man, I milked everything out of it and had a great experience. And I think some of the Croatians probably thought I was a little bit lazy, and I get that. I'm kind of laid back.
No, you're not lazy.
I would peak for the U.S. Championships, and then I go to Europe, and I'm like, I don't want to get on the volume in the weight room where it's going to destroy me. I'm trying to maintain.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there was a lot of recovery, and I was just trying to be as intense as I could for those meets. But man, it was a great time. My last year was 2009, and God, I was killing it that fall. I was training at Ashland with Judd. I had I think that November, I had a training session. I threw the 14-pound, 22 low, and then I had a 6K that was out like 2280. And I was like, man, this is going to be the year. And I messed something up in my scapula, doing dumbbell rows, and then I kind of added a very violent block arm into my throw, and it just every time I threw, every time I benched, every time I did any kind of back work, I would have this pain between my spine and scapula, and I couldn't get it to go away. Trained through it, but just wasn't throwing well that last year. Still went to Europe. I mean, I think that was my longest time there. That's when I had the apartment. And I remember my last, 2 or 3 weeks, I wasn't doing well at meets. I got stiffed on a 1,000-euro appearance fee in Romania. Yeah, that sucked. But I was living off of like $2-3 a day. I was going down to get bread. By the end of that trip, my weight was down to 255, and I was training about 275 post-collegiately when I was in better shape. But man, I was 255, and I was like, I'm not making money. I need to get a job. I want to get into coaching. So that's when I started at the University of Findlay, and had a group of great athletes, really. I had one national champion in the discus, Derek Vickers, as a sophomore, Division II. I think he ended up winning another 3 or 4 titles. I think one in shot, maybe one in weight, and he was just phenomenal all-around thrower, everything but javelin. And then after Findlay, which is kind of part-time, That summer I was a security guard, third shift, just to make ends meet at the school. And then got an opportunity to go to Eastern Michigan and start making a little bit better coaching money, and built a program there. Had some great athletes. One of my proudest moments there is an athlete, Anthony Jones, walk on, 51 feet shot, 161 disc, had a 19-foot long jump, which I really liked. And he walked on. I was the only coach giving him love. Fanger at Kent State was coaching, recruiting him a little bit. And the kid just had a knack for the weight throw. And I think he's the smallest guy to ever throw what he threw. I think it was 2184. And he did it at 5'11", 208, 208 pounds. And we went to that national meet, man. And there's no one under 260, 270. And then there's Anthony. But just great talent. His quadrathlon stuff was through the roof. Had long arms and just really figured out the weight. Well, it wasn't a technician enough to really go big in the hammer. I think he went 62-70. And after that, started coaching the decathletes as well, using the other coaches, my sprints, hurdles colleague and jumps, Sterling Roberts, amazing coach. And we tag teamed it. He did a lot with his events, and I kind of ran the program. And something I really loved with the decathletes is the organizing the workouts. There's so much chaos. There's so many events. And I was blessed with an athlete that put a lot of trust in me, who had a lot of talent, in Solomon Simmons. And I think his senior year, he was 6th at NCs and 6th at the trials, and 8th at Worlds last year. No longer coached by me, and with much healthier knees. We did our last 2 years jumping off of his opposite leg in the long and the high. And he ended up finding a good surgeon that figured him out. So he's going to have a nice bit at the Olympics in 2021, which is. But I built a group from scratch at Eastern. I had one thrower. When I left, and it was just men. When I left, I think we had, 13 or 14 guys.
Wow.
Yeah, and that might be including, I think we had 16 or 17, including like 3 decathletes. So, it was a big group. A lot of developmental stuff, a lot of walk-ons, or guys that came in on books, or 10%, something low, and just built a really good group. And 4 years ago, my wife Beth, we knew, she's from Cincinnati, works for Kroger, which is based out of Cincinnati. So we knew someday we were going to be in Cincinnati.
Family right close to her.
Yeah, and she makes the big bucks, and I get to coach and have a great time and do what I love. So we came down here. Colin Beaver left for Oklahoma, and I mean the rest is history. And it was just perfect. So it's been great building the program the last 4 years. Now I get to sit back, relax a little bit, especially on the recruiting side. I mean, those years when you're building something, man, it's a grind.
Yeah.
And you're making, 20, 30 calls a week when you're grinding really hard, and you end up talking to 100, 150 people over the year. And it's just, it's a grind, but out of those 150 calls, if you have a 10% success rate, you got 15 athletes right there. So it's tough when you lose the good ones, but every once in a while you find a great one, or you find a diamond in the rough that you didn't even know.
Which you are famous for. Which you're famous for.
Yeah.
Working, squeezing the smallest juice out of the athletes, right? You're getting their talents out there. Because you were like that, right? As well. You were talented, but it wasn't the talent of Dan Taylor, right? Right there, that was like, oh, this is going to be an amazing athlete. And like you said,
right.
you were not popular. Well, you were not known in U.S. because you were 10th or 11th shot putter. But if you were in any other country, you would be Olympics. 20 meters was the standard for Olympics. 1980 was the B standard, right? So you would make
Yeah.
a team in Croatia or any other country than U.S. You just happen to be in U.S. the best freaking
I
shot
thought about it.
country in the world.
I thought about it. I think I was, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years late to the when Croatia was giving out citizenship a lot more freely. Back when I think when Anders did it. But Anders had ties too. I mean, I think his grandmother was from the Dalmatia region or something like that. And so he grew up. He was learning a little bit of Croatian as a baby.
That's like I said, you would be on a team. You would be Olympian. You would be a world championship competitor. It just happens to be in U.S. And now in U.S., I mean, every year. I remember one year, Reese Hoffa was 6th at USA trials or USA championships with 2090, almost 21 meters, right? The guy throws 69 feet and gets 6th. I mean, that's unbelievable, right? And you win medals with that, right? At the World Championships. And I love what you did with your program here. You are a builder at Miami, Ohio. You build up a good program. And it's just you. That's you. As you talk about your history, right, from the high school, college, and those surgeries. I didn't know about those surgeries. Man, that's persevere to keep going. People, I stumbled my toe on a bed, and I'm like, I'm complaining so much that my wife started making fun of me, right? And you got all these surgeries that you have to go through and still continue to throw. And I remember your last year in Europe with the pain with your shoulder, clavicle. You were struggling, but you're still like getting out there. You're giving 110%, and that's amazing to see always. And that's why I admired your work. I admire you as a thrower, as a person, because you cannot fake that. Like you don't stay in track for that long, going through what you have gone through. If you don't really love it. That's something that I want recruits to know as well, and they can see that you really soon after talking to you that you love that sport, that you live it. What is that?
Sorry, go ahead.
How was it the injuries that you had? So a lot of athletes, obviously, being an athlete. I talked to Jason Tux the other day. He said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? If you're pushing yourself to the limits, you will get injured, right? Otherwise, you're not pushing yourself to the limits, right? You don't know how far you can throw. How was going through that mentally more than physically, just?
I mean, it was tough. The first time I was kind of away from the team. I'd only been throwing for like a week, just voluntary going out there. And I think I threw like 46 feet with a 16. I mean, it was tough, but I didn't really know what to expect in college. The second injury was pretty significant. Both injuries had me non-weight bearing for like 2 or 3 months. So that was the hardest part, is just getting around, especially in Michigan in the winter with crutches. There were a couple times where my one good leg slipped and there's nothing to catch me. But definitely tough. It took me 1 year to recover from that second injury to just get back to where I was at. And during that time, like you've got to focus on stuff that you can do. If you got a bad leg, like get your bench press going. If you mess up your throwing hand, like get your squat going, like improve the parts that you can, and wait for that moment when you're ready to go. But I think durability is such a big thing for athletes, more so than talent. I mean, I think the biggest thing is volume and reps. Like, how many times can you take a throw? And the people that are the most durable, they can live through the small injuries and avoid them, to the point where they're taking more reps than the other guy. And I think that's the biggest thing is reps. Like, I don't care if you're I mean, some guys are 6'8" with huge wingspans and throw the disc bar. But those guys that can really put the work in, those hammer throw type athletes that I like to find, that are just work. I mean, it's such a blue collar event that, like, you put the work in, you put the reps in, you're going to throw the hammer far. You're going to eventually learn how to feel the hammer. But I mean, yeah, it sucked. And I always said to myself, if the third one came, like, I'm done. It's just so much to work through. Oh, there goes my, but, yeah, it was tough, but we managed to get through it.
And during that time, obviously, you were in college, so you still have some academic responsibilities, right? So did you focus on that? Did you get your mind off of that? Just do what you can.
Yeah, I mean, I usually save this conversation for my athletes when they're like fourth or fifth years. I was a really good student in high school, and I worked really hard to achieve my academic success in high school. But honestly, when I got to college, I cruised a little bit. I was in a position where I could. I think I still graduated with like a 3.3, but my main focus was trying to throw far. I wanted a degree, but like 2 years into my zoology degree, I knew I want to be a throws coach. Okay. So just get through this, get my bachelor's, let's move on and try to get my master's in something more coaching related.
Okay. So that's a great example too. And I always tell my athletes that are recruiting when they're undecided, right? You can really take a year or two in college, kind of figure out really what you want to do, right? And if you do find yourself in a position or a major that you don't want to do, you can always go master's, right? You can always take classes that you are interested in. Which is something that you have done, right? Now, for you were a great high school student, so you didn't have to work as hard, maybe as other students. What do you say to athletes who, and parents who you recruit, athletes that you recruit, when they're saying, okay, Miami, Ohio, would I be okay there as a student? Am I going to struggle? Do you guys have resources for those kind of students that are, afraid?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the typical what most colleges have with the student athlete support services kind of thing, and tutors and all that. But Miami is a different situation than a lot of places that I've coached. It's a great academic university, and the level of the students there and just their mentality, like they're student athletes. They're not just athletes. But not everyone I bring in is a 4.0. I bring in student athletes that I know are going to have to work hard to do well at Miami. I mean, it's not a joke. You definitely have to work hard academically. And fortunately, most of the student athletes I get, like that's a great focus for them. And I expect them to go to class and bust their butts academically.
Sure.
And I don't usually tell them my history until later on. But I preface it with like, the reason I got to that point is I worked really hard in high school.
Yep.
And I wasn't into parties. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school. It was just academics and the last couple of years, sports, like really trying to bring that to a new level. And I think I was blessed to have that kind of development or approach in my social life, and just being a late bloomer and focusing on the academics first, and then finding my athletic rhythm.
So an athlete that you recruit now, if they aren't, obviously they have to have some kind of base grades, some kind of there's a level of that you are able to present to your compliance or your admission to say, okay, the student athlete will be fine here. We'll give him or her all this tutoring and advising to be able to graduate. You will not tell somebody to come there if you don't believe they're going to make it,
right? Right. And I mean, a 3.0 student, that's someone where I know like they're going to do all right as long as they put the work in. So a lot of it comes down to what kind of personality they have too. And sometimes you don't know in the recruiting process what you're going to get. Work ethic and passion are not always easy to weed out of all those numbers when you're looking at 10, 15 people, Yeah.
Do you go to the meets, the state meets? Do you go to high school meets to look for athletes?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I'm blessed with as a mid-major coach compared to a lot of the Power 5 coaches is it's not. I'm not on the road every weekend when meets aren't going on recruiting. I honestly don't think I've ever done a home visit in 15 years of coaching.
Yeah, you had some good athletes. Yeah, you got along without it pretty well.
A lot of emails, it's a lot. I'm not going after a lot of those athletes that are getting home visits. I'm looking for the ones right below that level that are going to develop. But I'm always checking out the state meets, indoors, outdoors. Ohio has so much talent.
Yes. Yes.
Even when I was in Michigan, I was recruiting more out of Ohio. There's so many good coaches and good young coaches. I mean, all of the Judd Logan disciples are just dispersed out through Ohio, killing it. And just in general, across the nation, I think why we're seeing this mass improvement, like at the NCAA level, where now, what does it take? It takes 1930, 1940 to make it to the NCAA championship meet in the shot.
Yeah, well over 19. Yeah.
That's insane. And I think it's a product of coaches passing on their knowledge and having more of an open atmosphere nowadays where everyone knows how to train and knows
each other, right?
What's out there. Yeah. And I mean, now you're seeing crazy stuff where throwing 20 meters in the shot. I mean, back in my day, in college, there were 5 or 6 guys, maybe. Now, I mean, it's crazy.
I remember one year Edison Edja got first and second indoor with 1950 something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1958, 1957, like they were centimeter behind each other. Yeah,
I remember I think it was the first time I met Edis. We were at regionals in LSU, and I think I was second to Jeff Chicoine again. I threw 1959, but in warm-ups I saw Edis take an 18-meter stand, and like, what is going on? Yeah. Like, just that was something that I never compared to the other 20-meter throwers. Like, most 20-meter throwers, they're going to throw 17 meters from the stand at least, and my best ever was 1550.
Wow. Okay.
I loved half turns. I had I had one half turn at Ashland indoors. They have a really low ceiling, and it kind of tapped the ceiling and still went 1850 or 1858, something like that. Okay. So my half turn was decent. I did not have that raw power that the other guys had. I needed some momentum and speed to build that up.
That's really impressive that you did almost 5 meters in conversion from stand to full throw. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it was 5 meters. Yeah, it was 5. If you count practice PRs, I think I threw 20. I think I threw 2075 or something like that in practice. Probably didn't save it. But it was crazy. I hated stand throws.
Yeah. No, I remember seeing Edis in Sacramento, 2005. This is when he won with 2080. I think he threw 2080 something. And he had a big foul, 2150. And I thought that was incredible. Like, this is superpower, right? And now you can't even make the final with that. 2141, I think. Yep. Chuck was 8th at the World Championships, right?
Oh yeah. That was an insane meet. That was so fun to watch that live. Oh my God. Yeah. No, I remember. I think my first meet in Europe was in Cork, Ireland. I went there every year. It was such a great meet. But a young Tomasz Majewski was there, and this is before he's throwing 21 meters all the time. Yeah. And I watched him take a stand throw near 20 meters. And then I think a couple months later, I watched Ralph Bartels take a stand throw about 20 meters. And I was just like,
those gliders. Yeah.
I am so out of my league with these guys. I can't imagine being able to stand throw that far.
Watching 20 meter stand throw. I know Ryan Krauser can push. I don't know. I think I saw him close to 21, 20, 50, something like that. Because he has that kind of gliding finish, right?
Yeah.
That's just so impressive. I can't even imagine Timberman back in the days. They were pushing 2150, 2180 with stand throw. What is that?
Yeah. Crazy. Well, and it's such a disadvantage for a thrower like me when you go into a maybe a high pressure situation or just only having 6 throws. And those guys that have that big strength base, like my bad meat, I could throw 18, 20. Yeah, they're bad meat. They're still throwing 1950, 2050, like just using their stand throw.
How strong were you in the weight room?
I stopped squatting for singles my last year of college. Messed up my back a little bit. I did, and then I went, and that was parallel. When I started training after college, it was all the way down. I did 565 for 5 at my best.
Good.
So my squat was decent. My clean was 175. I did that a couple times. And one time I got 125 kilos in the snatch. Nothing like your snatch. I've heard stories. But one time I got 275. Typically I could get 120 kilos. I probably did that 10 times. And then bench, I got 435 once when I was at Ashland. I should mention when I got to Ashland working under Judd, that taught me a lot about the weight room. I mean, those guys are animals, and it's so awesome. Just getting after it, and Ty Saban, he taught me how to be an all-around athlete. Judd taught me how to be stronger. So I think I benched 435 once. After college, I was usually over 415. But I mean, nothing like all those other guys were benching mid 500 in the.
No, that's not bad. But it's not as those guys who are 2021, right? So you still threw really far considering how strong you were, right? 20 meters a couple of times.
And you know, I had a really good military. My incline bench was probably 405.
Okay.
So I was pretty close, and that came into a lot. The way I threw was more of a military press than a bench press. I mean, I was throwing like up over my ears, so I didn't really need as big of a bench press. I wasn't
more
throwing in the same line of pull as those other guys.
Yeah. So now that you have all that experience, you train with some incredible coaches in shot put, obviously in Hammer as well, Judd, and then Jolt, right? In Sobate, you spent quite a few months over there with those Christian Parsh and those guys, right? Jolt.
Yeah.
When you're looking for, and you see that in Sobate, right? When the kids are starting, 11 years old, 10 years old, they're starting to throw. And knowing what you know with you not being 50 feet in high school, come on, right? For a guy like you, but then obviously you worked your way up and you were All-American and you threw over 20. If you have an athlete that hasn't thrown far, and that you cannot obviously give them full scholarship, or is there a possibility at Miami that you reward them later on, or if you get a scholarship, I don't know, 20%, that's it for 4 years?
No, that's one of the great things. And I'm so fortunate to have landed in this situation. I have an amazing boss, and I have amazing coworkers. I think we have more fun as a staff than any other staff in the country. Sometimes maybe too much fun, but it makes going to work just so much better. I mean, when you really enjoy what you're doing, and there's not, I mean, we're going to have some stress and there's going to be pressure in our jobs, but my boss he lets me do my thing. He knows I'm going to get my job done, and I don't have to stress a lot. There are times when you got to grind, and there's time when there's pressure to perform or pressure to recruit. But it's nice to, even as an athlete or for my athletes, I expect everyone to work hard and I expect us to train at a high level. But if it's not fun, why are we doing it?
Yes.
Life is too short. Like let's everything we do, we should be enjoying, and even for those people that grind and work their butts off and work 80 hours a week, like if they're having fun, that's awesome. For me, you'll never see me work 8 hours a week. There's just too many things in life, and I want to balance. I want to spend time with my family. And that's why, like, I am, there were times when I aspired, man, I wanted to be a big Power 5 coach. I interviewed at Kentucky, interviewed at Purdue, and it was something that, like, this is the progression. This is how I evaluated success, and it's just not anymore. Success for me is like, do you love what you do? Are you in the right place? Is it the right fit for you? And it's kind of the same for recruits. I mean, is it the right fit? I mean, I lose recruits to Big Ten schools all the time, and I mean, I get it. There's some things I think recruits need to weigh a little more sometimes. Some recruits will take the best financial deal, and that's not always the best school or the best coach or the best team program. I mean, finding that right fit where you can truly just enjoy life, that's success to me. And that's something that it hasn't all been by my work. Some of it's just being in the right place at the right time. But I feel really fortunate to be at Miami and build.
Have a head coach who understands that, right? To understand how important it is to have that kind of culture, because that spreads out to athletes. Like, if your employee is not loving his or her job, your athlete is going to feel that too, and then it's a bad team, right?
Yeah, and that's something we hear from our athletes a lot is that, I mean, they feed off the atmosphere that the coaches create. I mean, we have fun, man. We were competitive. We play a lot of ping pong, which you and I have had our moments in that. Yeah. It reminds me of what is it? Prasica, the little piggy.
Yes.
Prasica. I remember you were either yelling Prasica or toe.
Yeah. If it hits,
Yeah, if it hits like in a weird angle and you can't get it.
The edge, yeah.
That was one of the amazing things in Europe, man. Just the ping pong ability of some of
Kevo and Primoz, how good were they?
Oh, Primoz, oh my God. He and his coach, they were phenomenal. Phenomenal. Oh my God.
Talk about competitiveness and the love for everything, to be competitive across the board. He got a personal coach for table tennis, so he can beat Primoz, and Primoz still beat him. And he would get so mad. He got this 100-year-old racket, whatever you call it. Right? He was over. He was really good. But Primoz was just another level. I mean,
those were great times. In the BLS, it's a training center, and just amazing food and different, like some stuff you've never had before. And I remember there were a couple times where they take down a goat for all the athletes, and it was just God, it was so cool. Or being up in that weight room, which is like just this. I mean, compared to American weight rooms, like just this little like closet.
One podium.
Kind of like the Sombate weight room too. Like very, very simple, but it got the job done. And we would get done with those weight sessions, and the ping pong tables right outside, and it's God, those are great times.
Some hoops for the warm up, play ping pong for warm up, and then cool down.
Yeah, man.
We would play music in that basketball. It was so hot there. Remember how hot it was?
Yeah.
We were outside the window trying to breathe. There was no AC. And we're boiling. Oh my God. But they had the creek outside. Remember the creek? The water was close by.
Yep.
What I loved about that place, man, there's nothing miles and miles around. You're just trained. There was a great food, enough conditions that you need. Right? You have throwing field, you have a weight room, you have a tracks and then stadium, and then you got an Olympic champion Primoz there. All those guys. Oh my God.
Yep. Yeah, I remember one of the first phrases I had to learn was, "Where is the fire station?" Because I mean, you drive into or you take a train into Oberlin. Is that right?
Oberlin, yeah, which is like an hour
you
drive.
have to walk and then you have to walk a mile through this little city, or this little village where no one speaks English.
Nope.
And I'm asking where the Vatrogasta Stanica is.
Vatrogasta Stanica, yeah.
And then you take a bus to the train center.
It's like
and then,
30 minutes through curvy.
Oh yeah, I remember Ned made me drive to the coast one day through those winding roads. Oh my God, it was so scary.
So windy, yeah.
Driving in another country.
Yeah.
Most Americans couldn't do that because they don't know how to drive a stick.
Oh, it's rough out there, man. But yeah, that was so luckily none of the universities here have to go to that. We have better conditions. Obviously, good facilities over there at Miami. And you say scholarships do get rewarded if an athlete's more further?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think we have like 20 to 30 bumps every year.
Oh wow.
It's all based off of the conference meet and what we have available too. So
so how about if an athlete is not, let's say he or she just can barely score in the shot put, but can also barely score in discus, but can also barely score in javelin, so they pick up 2 or 3 points in every event and they score 10 points. Is that seen the same as, or it's not seen the same as somebody who wins the conference?
I think total points is all I care about. I think getting to a new level of scholarship, you got to do something on a national level past that. But I mean, being an event champion for 10 points, not making the national meet, is the same as an athlete going out and getting three 6th place finishes. You know, I mean, for me, I love having fun with the national level athletes and them taking me on their coattails on all these great trips out to Eugene and Austin and just, I mean, getting to experience all the great food out there and getting my double at In-N-Out.
Double.
That's great. But for my coaching perspective in the schools and ADs that I've worked for, we want to get it done at the conference level and win some championships. And there's no better feeling than putting all that work in over years, and then all of a sudden you get to that point and you get to the meet and you win that conference championship. That's a great feeling. So,
what is the day like at Miami, Ohio? How many groups do you have? When do you start practice? What's the balance between school? Do they go to school in the morning? Do they go afternoon? When do you guys lift? So what's the average day for you guys?
I think we're a little bit non-traditional compared to most universities. Our indoor facility is shared with football, baseball, softball. So I'm always, both the fall and the spring semesters, we're going to be in that building towards the end of the fall and then early spring. So we're always fighting for the time slots, and you're never gonna beat out football when they got their 3 to 6 or their 2 to 6. Okay. So we typically practice from 9:30 in the morning till about 2:30 in the afternoon. That's when I'm coaching. Our groups are broken up. I'm almost always trying to sandwich 2 to 4 groups around a weight room session. So our weight room is typically going to be 11:30, 12:30, something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting out in the morning with a couple groups. I try to keep my groups under 6. But sometimes I'll have 7, 8 athletes out there, as long as I'm not in all of them in the discus hammer.
One ring.
And that's usually the limiting factor, is discus and hammer. Javelin and shot, they never get congested like that. But trying to maneuver the student athlete schedules and figure out sometimes I really enjoy that, but it's tough.
It can be challenging.
And I think the bigger and better our group gets, the more I have to spread out my time coaching. But I think I have a lot of support from our head coach to do what I need to do with the athletes to make sure that they're getting enough attention on an individual basis and to keep getting better. And obviously you're spending more time with your point scorers and your national level athletes and giving them the love that they've earned. but still you gotta keep working with those developmental athletes. So in a couple of years, they can be the point scorers.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great to hear too, that you do, even even if it gets too crowded, that you do reward hard work and those guys who put in time in for their junior senior years, when they really want to produce some results, see what's going on after college. You do find time for them. Okay, let's find this block. There's going to be only 3 of you or only 2 of you guys.
Yep.
So that's good to hear. But yeah, if you're developing some things, you can, like you said, you had in high school around 80 throwers. I remember Mac Wilkins, he would have these camps, and he would set us up, 5, 6 strings, and he would go, okay, everybody do this drill, and everybody does the same drill, and you can do that with 80 people, right? But now when it gets more complicated and athletes get more sophisticated, then yeah, you're gonna have to do some other things. But until you're at that level, same every sport, right? Football, soccer, basketball. You learn the basics, and then it's coach like, okay, you are graduating to this group, right?
Right. Yeah.
What is your philosophy in terms of training and coaching? Do you have this workout that you give out to all the shot putters, or do you set up differently to different body types? Or
so there's usually a base workout or a template for the entire group, and then it gets modified after that. So a lot of the main lifts, bench, squat, well, not always bench for hammer throwers, but squatting, Olympics, everyone's doing pretty much the same kind of squatting Olympic movements. A lot of times we'll have an Olympic movement that's more individualized, like shot putters, I want them to do jerks. Hammer throwers, we're doing some sort of pull. But I mess with the auxiliaries or accessories, whatever you want to call them. I mess with those a lot to get it more individualized on the athlete. And then the training of a javelin thrower versus the other heavily events,
obviously,
is different, and it's more like my decathletes training. But the shot, disc, hammer guys are needing a lot more in the weight room, whereas a javelin thrower, we're doing a lot of it, but we're doing a lot of work with med balls, special strength, general strength, stuff like that to just be really all around fit. But yeah, I think the only workouts where we're very similar, we'll still have some stuff, auxiliaries that are different, but that first block in the fall, conditioning, it's really the only time where it's like, all right, everyone's together, we can all do the same thing. Whether you're a 150-pound decathlete or a 280-pound shot putter, like we're going to get in shape and do that general workout. But yeah, as much as I can keep my sanity and keep everything together, it's individualized based on event groups. And I am designing the workout around the best athlete within that event group. So if you're a 40-foot shot put girl, and I have a 50-foot shot put girl, you're going to be doing what the 50-footer's doing. Even if it's not the most ideal thing you should do, I'm focused on that 50-footer, and you're going to get improvements in development no matter what you do. If you're a 40-foot freshman, you're going to get better. Just being out there training year round and training like a college athlete versus a high school athlete who might train 8 to 10 weeks possibly. And the rest of the year they're doing volleyball or other sports or sitting on their butts all summer,
And for you, because you play soccer, you play football, are you looking for is it advantage for you to see that athlete when they send you a resume that they're doing other sports, or you want just track and that's it?
I mean, it goes both ways. If I have an athlete, I love seeing it. Some athletes that do other sports and other events. If I see a real nice, like, big person 100-meter time or a long jump or a high jump, like, I'm like, okay, this is an athlete. It's kind of the only way I can get an idea of their
overtrained or undertrained
ability. Like, oh my gosh, if you can long jump 19 feet at 220 pounds, you can probably standing long jump 3 meters. So you've got some of the abilities to develop power.
Yes.
And just have some overall athleticism. But then again, if I run into an athlete that only does track and they got a private coach and they're throwing you around. Like that shows a lot of passion. Sometimes it could be a highly developed athlete that it's really hard to improve with. If they're training like a college or elite level athlete when they're a junior in high school. But I mean, I love that kind of passion and work ethic if you find those athletes.
Yeah, and then if they're not good in discus, you put them in different event, right? So you kind of see if they're hard workers, right? If they have that zeal that they want to put years of work in it, the result will come. Come. It's just a matter of not first year, second year, maybe fourth year, right?
Yep. So and I love making hammer throwers out of anyone.
Yeah.
my first hammer thrower at McNeese, his name is Freddy Hanny. When I got there, he was a 200, 400 guy, not very good, was going to get cut, but he was the hardest worker in the weight room. So I didn't have a very big workload with my group. So I asked the head coach if I could have him throw hammer, and he's 5'7", 165 pounds.
Yeah.
And he buys in right away, and just he has the hammer thrower mentality, man. Just nice. Like he's throwing on Christmas Day at home. First year, I mean, our goal was, hey, by the end of this, let's score a point at conference. By the end of your college career, if we can do that, then it was worth it.
Yeah.
First year, he gets 8th and scores. He goes like 44-50, I think. This is back in the day when hammer and weight was a lot weaker.
That's really good, yeah.
Back in the day when I held the weight throw school record at Michigan State of 17:23.
That's changed.
Yeah. And then John brings in Lonnie and AJ and just demolishes it.
I remember AJ.
But he ended up throwing 58-90 in college. And he kept doing it a couple years during chiropractic school, and he threw 63.99 at 5'7", 225. So
wow.
Watching that hammer throw is my favorite event. Watching the improvement that happens from hard work is pretty awesome.
How exciting for you was, I mean, we were talking about, being an athlete, throwing far, but I know, I kind of know the answer for this one because you are such an enthusiast of throwing. How exciting was for you to see him go from nothing to 44 to 58 to 63 and eventually?
It was sweet. And I was only with him 2 years in person. And then his senior year, I coached him and wrote his workouts and got all that to him online. But man, it's so rewarding. I think watching these athletes get rewarded the way that I did, like I think that's the coolest thing about our job, and watching these athletes get to experience some of the great things when you put all that work in. And even if it's you finish college and you're a 50-meter discus thrower, like still getting that experience, scoring some points.
Getting PRs, getting better, right?
Yeah. I mean, no matter what level you're at, like seeing someone improve athletically and seeing people develop these we're getting these young adults at 18 years old and watching them become more mature 22, 23-year-olds. It's really neat, and it keeps me young. I feel like I've been in college for 20 years, being around these kids, and they love it when I throw their lingo back at them, like lit. I mean, it's say something. Oh, that was fire. Oh, they love it.
So are you on TikTok?
And then my wife tries it.
Yeah.
What's that?
Are you on TikTok? If you're staying young, I guess TikTok is the thing now in college.
I am terrible at social media. I see my wife does the gram, so I'll see something if she thinks that it'll interest me. But I'm one of those guys. I get on Facebook and I'll look around. I don't really post much. Most of my posts are going to be family related, or when we get into the season. I'm not great with social media, but I know like you're doing a great job. I know there's a lot of coaches out there that are really using that to their advantage. It's a great way for you to show someone what the program is like, what you're like, what your athletes are like, without them visiting. I am not good.
You're not there yet. You'll get.
It's not a technological thing. I don't feel like I want to take that time on my phone. I mean, not that I'm on my phone all the time, like everyone. I want to play cards or text someone. I don't. I cannot keep up with posting pictures every day. It's kind of like supplementation, like taking my protein and my glutamine. Like, man, I was terrible at that as an athlete. I could get like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
God, it's just I can't keep up with it. So I have ups and downs with social media, but I do my best.
Well, what I like about you is, so even though if you're not active, as some coaches are, but you are active in your athlete's life, and you do pay great attention to them and what they need to do and how they need to train, right? And
that's what matters, man. Yeah. And I think I was listening to your podcast with John, and I think you guys mentioned it. Finding a place where the coach is really invested in you, that really matters. And these days, find a place where there's some stability, and that's hard for a 17-year-old kid to figure out.
Yes. Yes.
How do you know if this coach is going to be there in 2 years or 3 years? Like there's so many athletes that have had 3 or 4 coaches throughout their college career, and it's tough to be successful like that. But
yeah. Well, that's a great point. And one of the questions I always get, almost always is, Coach, are you going to be there when I come there, right? If I'm recruiting athletes, they ask that because they see that. They see coaches jumping, not necessarily because it's their fault or they want to do that. It's a coaching change. It's athletic department saying, okay, we're cutting track, or we are changing the head coach. We bring in a new head coach, and then what do you do, right? So that's a great point to address. Also, consistency in training with one coach who's going to get to know you in 2, 3, 4 years. I think he can get much more out of you or she than just 4 coaches that are great coming every year different, right? So
and it's so hard that first year. I mean, I feel like I tell my athletes all the time that it's that second year of training is when it really comes together. I think a great example of that is Kibwe Johnson, when he went from training with Judd at Ashland, which is when I was there, to training with Bondarchuk. I mean, I think he was a 75, 76 meter guy at Ashland. Following year, 1 year with Bondarchuk, I think he's throwing 68, 70 meters. Everyone's like, what's going on?
He's done.
Well, he comes back the following year and he's throwing 80 meters. Oh, okay. A lot of sense. I mean, and Bondarchuk's system's not like everyone's. I mean, it's going to tear you down because it's just so much volume.
Yeah.
But God, it pays off in the long run. It's just so many reps.
Yeah. It's a culture shock too, right? Especially for young athletes going from high school to college, maybe out of state. This is the furthest they've ever been. To be in an environment that is so different from what they used to, is just mentally, it puts you in a situation that you have to adapt to your school, to your friends, to the new coach. And after that, like you said, first year, and I always tell this to athletes too, let's not expect anything first year. Whatever you got in high school, this is your adjustment year. We're going to take this year's adjustment, learning, and if you do PR, that's awesome, right? We'll take that, but don't expect anything right away because it is shock, right? It's a culture shock to the nervous system as well. And your food, you're eating differently. There's no mom cooking. You have to find food for yourself. Somebody like you or like me, you say you had 30 pounds. I gained 12 kilos. What is that? 12 kilos in 4 months. Wait. 20 something, about almost 30 pounds. In 4 months.
I've done that 10 times in my life. I'm just such a it's all or nothing for me, man. Oh my God.
You go full in it, right?
Yeah. I'll
no
either
food
go
left behind.
And I'll lose. I mean, I think I've lost 40 pounds in my life like 6 or 7 times. And then I do it, and I've put in 6 months of real hard work, man. I'm watching my cars, I'm exercising every day, and then I get to a point, and then I do like a 3-4 month stretch of nothing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
all
yeah.
I just it's all in for me. I can't.
Yeah, well, you're working from season to season, right? You get
Yeah.
right
Oh
to the
yeah.
season.
Oh yeah. There were so many times where I mean, usually my philosophy was when I was in season, like eat whatever you want. Like you want some McDonald's for fourth meal? Yeah, go do it.
Yeah,
And then I'd get to uh, August, and I'd be like, man, I am a whale.
yeah.
And I'd go from 285 down to like 260,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
in 2 months. And
Wow.
maybe not the healthiest thing, but that was just the way that it worked for me. The September and October was all about like fitness and conditioning, and when I got in season, I wanted to focus on getting bigger. And as a shot putter, momentum is such a big part of the equation that extra mass makes a difference.
Reese Hoffa would say, "Mass moves mass," right?
Yeah. So
no, the dedication you have for something that you really put your mind to is incredible. It goes in throwing, goes in learning the language, right? You going. I remember Katarina and Jan telling me, like, yeah, our coaches. We walked in on him listening to Croatian on a tape in his office, and we were like, "Who's speaking Croatian?" We were like, we sneaked into it, like, "Well, it's Steve listening to tape." This is.
yeah.
That's how dedicated you get. And I remember thinking, like, who's learning Croatian?
Right.
Who would do that?
I think that's part of the reason why I was able to have so many great relationships with Croatians is I'm the amount of respect I'm showing by learning the language. And for me, like, I love language. I'm Croatian is definitely my second language. But I always want to know going into a country, like, how do I say please? How do I say thank you? Like, how do I say, like, one more beer? Like the important stuff.
You got it.
Yeah. But it was just it was ideal. I had 2 Croatian athletes. I wanted to learn a language, and then I found out, oh my God, I'm living in near Croatia, or
4 years later.
Made a lot of sense.
What made me so impressed is and what I try to do, like yourself now, not to extent you have. You always eventually spoke Croatian. I do try to learn a couple of Icelandic words, some Spanish words, but I have athletes from there. I think it shows, and it did to us who were bystanders or bylookers through Katarina and Jan, how much care you had for them, right? So you're learning this that is part of them. Like you're investing yourself in your athletes to the point that you want to make them feel comfortable at your university. You want to show them that you're trying to do whatever you can to make them feel comfortable and to help them get better, right? And I think that's one of the big advantages that you have as a coach is that you don't think of that. Like nobody. And we had so many athletes from Croatia in U.S. Nedjad, me, Edis, right? Haklic. I can tell you, none of our coaches learned Croatian, right? Or neither tried to learn a couple of words. And to us, they were like, this guy. So it wasn't like a thing, like a plan you had, like, oh, I'm gonna, gain their trust, like everybody else does it, right? You just did it, and I think that was so awesome when you came to Europe. And
I don't think Andres tried to learn English.
Was that?
I don't think Andres even tried to learn English. His roommate with I think Montenegrin. His first couple of years.
Yeah.
So
he was a number guy, right? He was really good at numbers. He's like, Martin, mathematics, I scored 800 on SAT. Economics, no problem. Like, why I need, English? Which he was. He was his genius. He's a genius.
I think
always
the stories.
He speak well. He's a 4-time NCAA champ, master's degree, right? He has a accounting firm. Very successful.
He speaks like 4 languages now, at least.
Yeah. I remember one point he was like, Martin, now I've been in the U.S. so long, now they're making fun of my Hungarian. Like, they're making fun of my English, Croatian, my German, and now they're making fun of my Hungarian. It's like, no good.
That was another person I loved listening to Andres speak Croatian because it was simple.
Yes.
So for me, it was a lot easier to understand.
He learned most of Croatian in college too. He had a roommate from Montenegro, I think.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his first 2 years he he improved his Croatian more than his English.
Yes. No, he said that. Yeah, he said that. But yeah, that's. I don't want to take too much of your time, Steve. I know you have kids to take care of, but I wanted to thank you for caring about your foreign athletes as much as every other athlete. And then, so like I said, there's something you can't fake, that you just love seeing your athletes get better in every way, right? Not just in weight through, but you want them to have the best time and learn the best that they can. And I love that you have that in Miami, Ohio too, that environment of everybody being on the same page and caring for the athletes, having fun. Really, like you said, and you could have said it better. If you're not having a good time, what are we doing? Life is too short. Like don't do this, right? Spend your time doing something that you love, or around the people that you like, rather than just why. Even if you're a world champion and you hate it, that's such a waste of life. You can do something totally different and have fun.
Yeah, you see some athletes who work harder than anyone else, but they get 4 or 5 years in and they're burnt out and they just don't want it anymore. Yeah. And I mean, there's got to be a balance. Yeah.
What is the best way to reach out to you if obviously you're not a wizard on social media, which coaches shouldn't be anyways. But, what's the best way to reach out, and how do you like your athletes to reach out to you their junior year? Coach Manz, this is me. This is my PRs, or email, where they can find email, and how do you like that message to be tailored?
Email is probably best. It gets frustrating when you get emails from high school athletes and there's just no detail. Like I need to know what your PRs are. A video would be great. I need to know your academics. What do you want to study? If you just send me an email that says, hey, I'm so-and-so and I really love the throws and I want a scholarship. There's no information. Like, you're going to make me do a bunch of work to find, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
We got to go back and forth, right?
Yeah. Regardless of whether you give me your marks or not, I'm going online to look for myself. But just having that detail to know the numbers behind the student athlete, and then it always helps to have a message of what kind of worker are you? Why are you passionate about the sport? Why do you want to come to my school, or why are you interested in my school? Yeah. I want to know those details. And then I think one of the biggest things I like with student athletes or with recruits is it doesn't always have to be me calling you or me emailing you. You want to shoot me a text, give me a call. Like, I'm always open. Like, if you feel like, oh, you haven't heard from me in a couple weeks, and that's something that is important to you. Yeah. I mean, get a hold of the coach. You can't just sit there and wait for the school to get a hold of you. They don't know that you're interested necessarily. I mean, I was one of the better throwers towards the end in Michigan, and I mean, my coach had to tell Michigan State's coach, like, hey, this guy's interested. He's not a 60-foot shot putter. He's not a 180-foot discus thrower, but he's really interested. And just, I think knowing a recruit's interest level helps a lot. If I see an email and I can tell that recruit has sent it to 100 other schools, like, you're not really interested in my school. Yeah, that's a lot of time to be putting in to figure out which school you're going to go to, and those ones are usually competitive. You have some school that it's like, oh, I might think that this student athlete is a walk-on compared to my group and my standards. Some other school might think they're worth 50-70%. And when a student athlete when a recruit is sending out 100 emails, they're usually looking for the best financial offer. Yeah. They want the big scholarship. And I understand, like, a scholarship makes you feel wanted, but it makes you feel like, it makes you feel like you're wanted by the coach and the program and all that. But I mean, we're not football. Yeah.
We don't have 85 scholarships, right? So it just, and you have 80 people on the team that you have to spread it out, right? So
right.
Getting a full ride, it's really difficult, and sometimes it's not even worth it for you to be on a full ride just anywhere, right? So like you said, if you are a talent and you go into a big school, and that you know that school has 45 throwers, are you going to get the coaching that you need, right? Are you going to get to your full potential? Are you going to have a good time doing it, first of all, and then will you get to your potential? Like I said, that's, is it worth it, right? Because you will never know how much you could have achieved in this sport just because you choose that big name. And I'm doing disservice to myself right now. It's not exactly, but that's the truth, right? And if you're not happy at a school, and I always tell athletes, I know that's the case with you as well. If you're not happy here, I'm not going to be happy, because I want you to be happy. I want you to have the best. So don't choose a school just because it makes sense for your parents or it's a flashy title, but choose it because you feel comfortable there, because you see yourself there with a coach. Like, wow, this coach really cares about me. You will get 800% better than just being at the name, right, school.
Yeah. I mean, having the coach's attention makes a big difference.
Good. Well, Steve, thank you much. So again, guys, if you are a recruit, and if you're a parent and you want your kid to be taken care of to the fullest mentally and physically, obviously giving all the resources that they have at Miami, Ohio, with trainers, with academic advisors, and being a better person. I mean, it's really hard to get better than you, Steve. And I've seen that. I've seen it with athletes. The biggest proof of that is seeing Jan or seeing Katarina over the summer, and they're like, Stable, we start talking about you, right? It's like our smiles go on our faces, right? So that shows everything without even saying, right? So thank you again so much. Thank you for your time, and I'm sorry I haven't seen you this year. I'm excited to see you next year at the meets.
Yeah, man, it's really an honor being pulled in with the other coaches that you've talked to. I mean, you've been talking to some great coaches, so I feel really honored to be asked to chat, and thanks for the opportunity, man.
Wow.
That was Steve Manz for you guys. If you like this episode, click that subscribe and like button, and we'll see you guys soon.